Greetings, everyone. Early in my career, when I first heard the term extensive reading, I mistakenly thought it meant students would be reading extensively about a topic or theme. For example, if the theme was sustainability, students would read many articles about pollution, recycling, fossil fuels. But I was wrong. Instead, I now know that extensive reading means reading a lot for the pleasure of reading something interesting. My understanding of the full potential of extensive reading happened after what I learned from one of the students in my advanced writing classes. Her name was Marina. From her first writing assignment, I could tell that Marina was probably about the fifth lowest writer out of 18 in that class. She was planning to take her first college course in her major, psychology, the next term. To get an idea about what to expect, she looked at the textbook that she would be using for that course, and she felt panic when she realized how difficult it was. However, she was determined. So she decided to read anything that she found interesting, and not necessarily about psychology. Also, she read whenever she could. For that term, she stopped looking at social media or television. She avoided internet except for assignments, and even stopped spending much time with friends during that term. I noticed something amazing at the end of the term. Marina had improved from the fifth lowest to the second best writer in my class. Also, she visited my office during that term after she had finished her psychology class. She had received an A. I realized that my students could all tap into this powerful agent for improvement if I could provide them with this one thing: short, high-interest readings that they will want to read. Some of you might be thinking, sure, Dave, but that's easier said than done. So to start with, I'll share with you a link below to extensive reading articles that my students have found interesting and that you can download and use with your students for free. Next, here is how I was able to put it all together. I didn't just one day decide to spend time looking for articles. Instead, I let them come to me. Anytime I read something, I put it in a folder. Or if I heard something in the news or a podcast that I thought was interesting, I kept a link to that in a folder. Then, when I was assigned to teach a course that I found to be conducive to including extensive reading, I went through the folders. Usually, I needed to do some modifications to the original article or even summarize it, perhaps adding some examples in order to make the quality good for extensive reading. That process in itself was a very fulfilling experience for me. So let me describe the characteristics of a good reading passage. By far, the most important is that it is of high interest for most of the students. In fact, this is more important than even the reading level. I have found that I can use the same article with students from low intermediate to advanced if the article is interesting. The lower level students are motivated to understand as much as they can and won't let some challenging vocabulary get in their way. This results in students developing their confidence that they'll be able to understand at least the main idea of almost anything that they read in English. A second important characteristic is that the article is short. My articles are only about one page, usually between 400 and 500 words. I think the reason that this is so important is because students tend to hesitate to even start reading an article that is long because of the time and energy that it might involve. But seeing a short article, they think it's easily doable. And if some vocabulary looks challenging, they will be willing to persevere. This is one of the more rewarding experiences that I've had as a teacher. I've given my students an extensive reading article and told them that they can leave the class after they finish, or they can finish the article at home. Typically, a student will finish early and give me their paper. Then I tell them they have a choice. They can leave, or I can give them another article. Almost without fail, they choose to read another article. Even my struggling students will usually accept my offer to give them an extra article that they can read at home. I know some teachers are reluctant to have students silently reading individually during their class, while they, the teacher, is quietly available in case someone needs them. This isn't the image of what they think a teacher should be doing, which is standing up and talking in front of the class. However, once they've seen their students so focused on actually reading English and enjoying it, and realize the skill development that is taking place, they become determined to make it a part of their course. So giving students short, high-interest articles and time to read them individually is very motivating. In addition, I think feedback can add to their confidence and motivation. If you click on the link below to the extensive reading articles, you'll see that in addition to the articles, I've included 3 exercises. The first one is a simple 5 or 6 true-false question exercise to help students see that they were able to understand the main ideas even if they hadn't understood all the words. The next 2 are optional, depending on the teacher and perhaps the goals of the course in which the extensive readings are used. The first is a paraphrasing exercise. I wanted to make this exercise to mirror what we do in real life after we've read something interesting. Here is how it's presented. So the directions are: imagine that you have this conversation with a friend. You: I just read an interesting article. Friend: oh yeah, what did it say? So then the student's assignment will be, write what you would tell your friend. Include as many details as you can. After you finish writing a first draft, you can reread the article and revise your draft. However, don't look at the article while you are writing. You can use some of these key words in your paraphrase. So I give some key words, because this is not a memory activity. We're not trying to just see how much did you remember. We're just giving some keywords that can help them remember enough to be able to write as many details as they can, and the rest of it will all be in their own words. So that's the first exercise. Then the first optional exercise. Then a second optional exercise involves reflection, and here's how we present it. So directions: write a reflection about the article. Try to write a paragraph with several sentences. In your reflection, your first sentence can be one of these: I found some interesting, important information in this article. After reading this, I now would like to learn more about or read more, research about this topic. There is some information in this article that I could apply to my life. I disagree with the author about something. This article reminded me of me, my family, my friend. I was surprised by something in this article. So that's the reflection exercise that after they've read, they can give their thoughts about it. So now I'd like to tell you about a very teacher-friendly addition to programs that I've taught in. It's a reading journal reader. Here is basically how it works. Our program hires a tutor whose task is to read students' journals in which they briefly summarize something that they read and reflect on. So these can be from these, it can be articles, extensive reading articles that they've read, and then they can use them for their reading journal assignment. And so they write their assignment, and the teacher doesn't mark grammar or give a grade, but instead writes brief comments in the margin, reacting to what the students wrote. In the link below, I've provided details about it along with samples of the type of comments that the reader writes. What I love about reading journal readers is it's a great way to motivate students. They see someone is reading what they wrote and responding to it. Also, it's relatively inexpensive for a way to keep students productive without adding more work to teachers. So I hope this video has been helpful for any of you who have been considering having extensive reading as part of your courses. Thank you for watching.